Secret of the Snail, written by Janet Ollerenshaw, narrated by John Delino Ziegler, Jr. Thinking out loud. Thinking out loud, those words on the page, scampering about, mice out of a cage. Where are they going? What do they say? Will they sing the same song as they sang out today? The pictures they sing, the emotion so strong, without any question of rightness or wrong, are just thoughts here on paper escaped from my mind, and floating about just as leaves on the wind. Patterns are forming, then fading so soon, as the tides flow and ebb with the pull of the moon. Sometimes the words whisper of secrets untold, then shout to the mountains as mysteries unfold. Thinking in circles, on paper, out loud. My thoughts, my emotions, alone in a crowd. JBO, February 2008. Chapter 1. Hingemont. The sleepy village almost disappeared in the onslaught of lashing rain, which obscured everything more than a couple of yards in front of the slowly crawling vehicle. No lights lit the single street, and the sometimes visible dim glow emanating from large houses set back from the road was similarly obliterated by the driving downpour. Imogen peered blindly through the streaming screen, hunched forward over the wheel as she tried in vain to read an already partially obscured name board on a rickety gate. "I'm sure I'm in the right place," she murmured, though truth to tell, she didn't feel very sure of anything at that precise moment. Had it really only been 3 days since the summons? And why her, when she had probably been the furthest away from here? There were others like her, equally accountable, weren't there? In her head, she counted her cousins. Auntie May had 4 children, Millie 3, and Uncle Beau had at least 5, or maybe 6 by now. Then, of course, there were her brothers, Max and Archie, so it really didn't seem reasonable that she should be the only one to take on this most recent responsibility. Sighing deeply, she put the little car into gear, sped up the wipers to their maximum capability, at which point they waggled so frantically that it seemed they would fly right off the vehicle, and gradually proceeded further through the village. She passed, on her right, the village hall with its wildly swinging notice board which clung precariously to its gallows, whilst inviting all to the forthcoming harvest supper. Not that she could read any of the information. No, that would come later. But for now it served to trigger a memory from somewhere in the depths of her mind that the house was beyond this point and that there was a gate that had to be opened, leading up a longish driveway to the large house which was her intended destination. And suddenly, just as she was beginning to consider the merits of returning to the nearby town to find a room for the night, there it was. Surprisingly, the gate stood uncomfortably open, swinging slightly in the hurricane-force wind, but tenuously secured with a piece of orange twine that similarly flapped and threatened to rip itself apart. At least someone had considered the extremely inclement weather and her intended ingress. She smiled wryly and was comforted by a rustling sound from the back seat, followed by a wet nose that pressed against the back of her neck. How was it that Benji always knew when they were about to arrive somewhere? For the entire journey thus far, he had remained curled up and fast asleep, not even bothering to raise his head when she was obliged to stop for fuel or at traffic lights. And now he was up on his rather short legs, shaking his rather long ears and scruffy golden hair and making it quite clear that he was ready to exit the car. It was impossible to stay irritated with Benji for more than a second or two. His slightly lopsided comical expression and obvious delight in her company, evidenced by his wildly wagging tail and lolling pink tongue, always melted her heart, and she reached behind her to fondle his wriggling body before telling him that he must wait while she assessed the situation regarding welcomes and wet feet. She quickly abandoned the idea of using her large golfing umbrella
Sample complete. Ready to continue?